ANC Mbalula is so pained that the March and March movement is now getting more powerful and popular day by day. The reason is not far-fetched. Jacinta stated it herself. She said when the March and March was newly formed, they tried to have a meeting with ANC stakeholders, but the big boys of the ANC looked down on them and turned them down. Now that the movement has become very popular and is associating with the MK party, the ANC is scared. That is the exact same reason why Mbalula has decided that he must end Jacinta's career. You remember on Friday, July 1st, just a day after the March and March protest, Mbalula organised a public press conference. What he did throughout was blackmail Jacinta Zuma, claiming the movement is being sponsored by Jacob Zuma. Yesterday, Jacinta Zuma went live on an interview and she dismantled Mbalula. She exposed the ANC's dirty secrets. Now it is pound for pound. Jacinta has now decided to play dirty since these guys are never letting go. Dear viewers, welcome to today's podcast. If you are a strong fan of Jacinta Zuma, hit that like button and share this video with everyone. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. Type in the comments section, illegal foreigners must go. Let's jointly fight this battle together. Jabulani, roll the clip.
Bibi, members of the media, thank you very much for honoring us by attending this media briefing, enabling us as a party to communicate our views, our decisions, and also our positions in the public discourse, in the narratives that have been built. As much as we will be talking about other issues, but in the main, we will focus on the 30th of June. Good afternoon to you all, and through you, the people of South Africa. The 30th of June has come and gone. As the dust settles, we wish to speak plainly to the nation, to reflect honestly on what we have just lived through, and to place on record 2 decades before the public. Let us begin with gratitude. On the 30th of June, the country stood firm. They called for a shutdown. South Africa did not shut down. Our children went to school. Our workers went to work. Our buses, our taxis, and our trains ran. Our clinics and our shops stayed open. The economy kept its feet, and we foresee no grave job losses from the action. For this, we thank the overwhelming majority of South Africans who refused to be conscripted into anarchy. And we thank the men and women of the South African Police Service for maintaining law and order in the Republic. The Border Management Authority for the sterling job they are doing on a daily basis, and our security services who stood their ground with professionalism and restraint. Where there was violence, intimidation and looting, because there was, the law took its course, and it will continue, and our security services who stood their ground with professionalism and restraint. Where there was violence, intimidation and looting, because there was, the law took its course, and it will continue to do so. We have said it before and we say it again. The enforcement of immigration law is the work of the democratic state, and the state alone. No mob, no march, and no self-appointed commander may take that power into their own hands, into opportunity at home, and disciplining the language and political conduct around migration in the spirit of the Durban Declaration. Stop calling abantu amakwerekwere, amakurugamba, all sorts of names. Stop calling people kafirs in their own land by the racist elements. That must stop. Argue your point, raise your issues, but do not denigrate, do not spew hatred and ethno-nationalism. Like Yuma Sigela said, sonke singabantu. And South Africa pride itself of Ubuntu. South Africa pride itself of Ubuntu. There are many things that are happening, which we agree are a direct result of illegal immigration. The ANC urges government to place this compact on the agenda of the African Union's mid-year coordination meeting at Al Ain in Egypt. It is not an instrument of exclusion, nor a retreat from the African inheritance of generosity. To those in flight, it is a structural offering rooted in Ubuntu and in solidarity of the frontline states that once sheltered our own. We are not being blackmailed when we are reminded about our history, but equally, we must address the truth and the facts that illegal immigration has become a burden for South Africa and affected South Africa and South Africa alone. This event taken a violent turn and so on. News 24, Masungwini, I don't know what you make of the numbers. I don't want to argue with you. But I saw people who were mobilized in and around, even from the hostels, marching, and a build-up around Johannesburg and the surrounding areas, and as well as eThekwini. But all other provinces, even though there were marches, but they were not big. But that should not be the issue for the ANC. The ANC should be concerned that there's a possibility that our people can be hijacked against itself and be turned against the ANC on this very issue. It's not a question of there were 50 or 100 or 20. That's the first thing we need to consider. Secondly, we need to read the room correctly, which we agree with the people. Are the issues that have been raised, leave the figures who are leading, are these issues not real? They are real. First, admit to those issues. And then, because you are leading GNU, you are a governing party, address the concern. Do not be oblivious and say that, no, they are drunk. Some of them get money from Israel and the CIA. You don't have even, some of them get money from the... No, that should not be an issue, preoccupation. That reality will come out. That people have got money to mobilize, they can travel. I don't know, these people are using jets or what. Pakela, I saw him in Joburg in the morning, in the afternoon he was in Durban. I said, hey, I'm resourceful, Lamatot. Even we politicians, ANC has to hire a jet for you to campaign in 3 cities. Now, some guy in jail from Nongoma can travel from city to city. It's a concern, because we don't want our state and our country to be hijacked for ulterior motives. We don't. But that should not be our preoccupation. We are hard at work now to address the very same issues they are talking about. Me and you, we know the truth about the issues that they are addressing. And that is why there is a conflict of knowledge and data around the question of how many undocumented people are in the country. Stats SA says it is not the numbers that people have projected, 30 million, which means it's half of the South African population. Stats SA talks about 3 point something million people who are undocumented in our country. And Risenga, the SG, the Statistician General, has given us that particular data. But others have been saying that there are 40 million people here. You know, 5,000 people when they are marching, you will think that there are many. Take a drone and look at them. You will realize that there are 5,000. That's why we fight as the ANC all the time with the numbers, with the journalists. Because the journalist will just look at you and say there were 1,000 people there. And then we say you are lying with 20,000. They say you were 1,000 max. You were not 20,000 and all of that. And then they start to give you the analogy of this. But me and you and this group, if we get into the street and march, maybe say we are 5,000, we'll make this street look like if you take especially a view, make people to think that you were many. Imapai Chachalazen, there next to Market Theatre, fill that place and call the cameras, then we'll know you were 20,000 there. Not when you are running around, running among, promoting violence, doing anything. Marches were peaceful in most parts of the country, but they were more vibrant in Gauteng and Durban, eThekwini. But everywhere in the country, 170 people were marching. Even in KwaGompo, where a king was installed, the numbers were not as big as that time. And business became business as usual. But the mobilization, we saw it. It was targeting Cape Town, City, Central. It was targeting Eastern Cape. It was targeting all parts of Gauteng. And then KZN. And you were bound to see numbers there. And then in Gauteng, where did it go? Soweto, Johannesburg, Central, and then Ekurhuleni, those areas. And even Pretoria, where we used to have a problem, bigger problem, of a settlement of illegal immigrants, did not explode in terms of numbers and all of that. So local government there and government have done a good work to repatriate these people from Pretoria Central, and they continue to do that. So a lot of work has been covered. So we don't argue with the numbers. The question is, what is it that is being addressed? And that's what we need to attend to. Whether there were 40,000 people and all of that, of course the ANC gets worried when people get mobilized and they respond to some of the issues that we think normally will be blamed on the ANC government, which is what everybody will say. And that is what we are rebutting here. To say that, no, we are in this problem because of them. And now we reminded them. We have been addressing these problems since it came to the center stage. And whenever we go and address...
Now I really feel sorry for Mbalula because in the next clip, Jacinta completely destroys him. If he ever listens to this interview, he will never dare to attack Jacinta again. Jabulani, roll the clip.
Okay. When people say that, where do you get the funding from? I ask myself, funding, what funding do people think we need?
Okay.
Exactly.
That's
we
cool.
need transport, people come for themselves.
So organic grassroots.
People come for themselves.
I hear you.
People buy their own t-shirts. When they need t-shirts, there's no food that's being provided. There's no anything that's being provided. But we do have people that say, for example, when we had a stage now at the protest that we just had, that stage was massive. We're never going to afford that, you know. But there's business people who say, listen, I don't want anyone to know, but I'm going to pay for the stage. And we don't ask for that money for ourselves because we know they are also afraid that the minute they deposit money to us, when they check our records, they're going to say, oh, this one was funding the money, so therefore the money is good. So we say, you know what, pay for the stage, pay for the water, give us the water. That's all we want.
Limited and to specific.
Trust me, listen to what I'm saying. You know, if we had funding, sure, South Africa would not move for days.
Do you think you'd be more effective in what you're...
Beyond effective.
Okay, so tell me, what does the plan look like next? Where are we going from here?
I don't know who Martin, whoever you just mentioned is, but if we can get him to sponsor me with just like that 2-bar, trust and believe me, the government will respond to what the people want. Because I think that the problem here is that we've got a government that doesn't respond to poor people. They want poor people to act outside of character so that they can change from looking at the concern to focusing on what they're doing. They've mastered that.
Sure.
So they no longer talk about immigration crisis. They talk about violence. Because they've been the one talking about violence. We've never mentioned violence, by the way. Not once. So now that's what the government wants to achieve. They want to shift the focus from the immigration crisis to being about South Africa being violent. And that... I say this even now, you might not understand this, but if that was a bunch of white people marching the streets the other day, today the government would have come up with a comprehensive plan on immigration. And you know I'm not lying. You know I'm not lying.
I don't know.
You know I'm not lying. If that was a bunch of white people there, trust and believe me, the story would have been different today. Cyril Ramaphosa ran to America when a few white people from AfriForum said, there's a white genocide in the country. He responded like this. He jumped. He sent ministers and whatever. The clash comes when the immigrants themselves, this is where I want people to be honest with themselves about the immigrants in this country. Immigrants in this country have been protected for a long time. That they've gotten entitled, they've gotten arrogant, and they've gotten very brave. Right?
Sure. I saw some Malawians on the camera saying, you guys can come.
You are lazy, you are this and that. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can't expect that to not play a factor in people being angry. Because like I say, we are fighting our government. Our marches are to our government. We're not going to the drive-in where the Malawians are and saying remove. If we wanted to do that, trust me, we would have done that.
We are seeing some people being grabbed and chased away and papers checked.
Well, let me tell you, I don't want to account for things that other people are doing. That's not on us. Because we've never even preached that. I'm going to account for what we say and what we do. So, like I said, communities are angry. Remember, I said this from the beginning, from the onset. And that is because of government's failures. But I still maintain we must never take away from the role that the immigrants themselves have played. Because if you're in a foreign country and you start telling the natives of that country you're not going anywhere, Mandela said this is our country, we are going to... You can't pretend like those people are innocent. And that's the problem I have with South Africa. A lot of people are acting like migrants are just these, all of them. And you know, one thing you must have noted, I don't know if you noted this, and it worries me that our government didn't find a problem with that. So many of them were being interviewed. Oh, life is not the same in South Africa. There are no jobs, blah, blah, blah. There are no jobs. Or almost all of them are complaining that there are no jobs in South Africa. So what exactly were they doing in the country? How were they surviving? Why are people not asking themselves those questions? Why are they not asking them that question?
The flip side is that you have South Africans complaining that all the jobs are going to immigrants.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, South Africans don't have jobs, right? Statistically, that's been
massive
proven, blah, blah, blah. That's okay. But I'm saying we've got people coming from Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Nigeria. When that was happening, I was writing about it every day. Like, you know what? The government needs to take this seriously. You know, we were writing to the government. Why are you not taking this seriously? Like, children are dying. And remember, these snacks are not coming from local production. They're coming from all those illicit goods that are coming in to our country, unmonitored, etc. So I waited for the president to just say something like, you know, profound, like something presidential.
This is a problem. We should do something
20-something children are dying. Like, do something about it. I was hoping he's going to say, you know what, shutting down spaza shops until all the food is regulated. There's only going to be, you know, suppliers that are, you know, approved by government, something. The man goes on TV and says, let's register them.
That's it.
That's it. And we'll go and research into what... That was the last time he ever spoke about that or those children ever again.
And so what was day one then for you?
That was it. It was a combination of that. And then I went on social media and I'm like, guys, I'm losing it with this man, you know? And then everyone is like, guys, let's do something about it. We're always keyboard warriors. Come on, Jacinta, we trust you to do something, blah, blah, blah. You know, everyone on Facebook was like putting their trust in me to do something about this.
Okay.
You know, because we're all outraged. We're sitting there on Sundays, always outraged. You know, always sitting there, always outraged. Communities are complaining, outrage, but it's always on social media. So then I said, okay, guys, you know what? It's January now. I think I remember very well. I think it was in January. Let's do something now. There's March. Let's march in March. And that's when we started March and March. But it started as March in March.
I hear you.
Then after our first March in March, now March is over, right? Yeah. Then everyone is like, okay, what's next? And then I'm sitting there like,
March
okay,
in April.
what is next? I was like, do we say March in April, March in June? I sat there like, gosh, what are we going to do? And then it just hit me like, okay, you don't have to change the march because that's the important thing about it. You know, freedom was attained through marching. Yes. March must remain. Okay. So I said, okay, let's say march and march. Okay. Let's change the end to end. Yes. And then continue to march and march, which is a continuation.
And I've heard the stories. Being on the ground, speaking to protesters myself, I've heard the mother who has lost her daughter to dirty drugs from a Nigerian gang.
Prostitution.
I've heard about the young man who has a matric or a degree and can't find work, and he goes home to his family and cannot provide, and he sees the Malawian or the Zimbabwean or the Mozambican or whoever it is with work, and he says, you know, this isn't right. And I see or at least I hear of the slumlord syndicates that are hijacking buildings or RDP houses. I know that the majority of Zamazamas are undocumented illegals. So I see that. What do you think, if you had to summarize the pain points of the movement, what do you think are like the big
Sure, I think the most painful part of them all is a government that doesn't listen to you. I think that's the biggest problem here, because if the government listened to the people, we wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't have to.
I mean, we wouldn't have to be, because the government would have solutions. Like I'm telling you now, it started with the president ignoring the deaths of South African children.
Yes.
But you see what the painful part is that if those were foreigners or the children of foreigners, they know the outrage would come from the rest of the world and they would have acted accordingly. So we don't get the same, you know, type of protection in our own country because the rest of the world is going to say, what about foreigners? That's why we're here.
I've said this before. I think that what we are seeing with your movement is the natural consequence of a government that is unresponsive to the problems of its people.
Absolutely.
And if the publicly elected governing body, like the people that have been put there to serve as public servants, aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, this is what comes out.
Absolutely.
What I have been impressed by is how peaceful it has actually been. In a country like ours that has the murder rates of a war zone, right? And I'm not saying that there haven't been
anger.
And I'm not saying that there hasn't been some isolated incidents, right? I know that there have been some people who have been chased away that have got papers. I know that there have been some people pulled out of their houses. I saw something about that online recently, of a news story. I understand that, but for the most part, the fact that the mob, which generally once it's been set up and it's rolling, it's very hard to control, has been so peaceful. I think we were expecting like Durban July riots, most South Africans, I think, and it's actually been relatively peaceful considering. What do you attribute that to?
Look, I think we've spent enough time with the people to know that things were going to get out of hand and quickly. Trust me, I think a lot of people don't realize how much our movement has contained the anger of the people.
I can imagine.
And people take that for granted. Like we just woke up in the morning and everyone is just peaceful. First of all, it started with people being scared to express just how angry they are.
Yeah, because you get labeled xenophobic.
Yes. That's been the natural thing. But within communities have been fed up.
Sure.
And that has been my fear, that once it topples over, people are going to start dying and nobody's going to be able to stop this thing. So we've managed to teach people of their rights more than anything and remind them of their power. I think that's the most powerful thing that our government hasn't been able to do. Our government has disempowered South Africans, truly.
I hear you.
And to remind them that, listen, you have the power in you to say,
Yeah.
we've never been consulted when it comes to ZDPs. We've never been consulted when it comes to refugees being in our communities. We've never been consulted with giving foreign nationals the right to come open spaza shops. That is where your power is as communities. But you're not going to be able to communicate your power through violence, because we come from a violent background. So violence is a natural thing because we've never really rid ourselves of it. And people don't understand why there's so much crime. Because there's so much violence. There's been so much violence in this country from way back. You know, even when people protest, remember, the government has taught them that for us to hear you, go in the street and burn tires. It's the government's fault. I continue to say this.
And so I'm so impressed by that power under control. You've maybe perhaps shown them their power, but it's been a power that's been held under control. It's meekness. That's a pretty important Christian principle to have. Is knowing this, you have.
You know why? It's not that difficult, really. South Africans are kind people. And I think Ubuntu is a very important principle to us. People don't understand that the reason we have allowed this to go on for so long is because of that kindness exists. It's in us. It's not something that we have to import from somewhere to pretend that we have. But when kindness is overused and people feel mistreated in their own country, that kindness slowly dies out. So we have to try and balance between, remember that kindness, don't let it go anywhere, but also you are just as important as a foreigner in your own country, and don't let anyone take that away from you. The government is the problem. That's why I think we continuously say that the government is the problem. The unfortunate part, though, is that when South Africans wake up in the morning, they don't see government, they see foreigners. You see what I mean? When they go and they're on social media and they're saying, you know, foreign nationals who are in the country legally must go, the people who respond and tell them we're not going anywhere, you won't do anything to us, are not the government. That's where the problem is.
Trevor Noah is a very liberal, call him a clown, entertainer perhaps. He said something that I thought was wise the other day.
Yeah, I heard him.
And I actually took note of it because I don't often hear him say something that's profound. He said, it is easy to feed the poor dude on the street when your own fridge is full. When your fridge is empty, it's a lot harder. And I think it is governments failing that we're here after 30 years, that not even the border was standing, right? The fact they haven't had a border for the last 30 years is a problem. But our economy is stalled. We need to have at least 3 or 4% to have any kind of dent in the unemployment rate that we have, which is insane. I think it's like 43% on a broad basis. And we're at like 1%. So there is no hope for this future. There is no hope for more jobs coming. And then what's the natural response that's going to be? It has to be, we've got a problem, and then the focus lands on the immigrant who is taking the job and perhaps does bring some crime and is opening a spaza shop. Very, very organized. The Chinese, the Pakistanis, the Somalis come in.
It's a criminal net. I don't want it to. No, I don't want us to sugarcoat it. The spaza shop business has become a criminal network.
I agree with you.
It's no longer a normal business.
I agree
because
with you.
if you're killing South Africans who are opening spaza shops because you don't want them to open spaza shops where the areas you think belong to you, your territory, that is a crime network. It's gangsterism. It's not migrants who are poor running away from their conditions in Somalia and Ethiopia and Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Big corporations.
Very well established. And all of these people know each other. They have networks. And the biggest problem of this all is the money network. Where is the money that they are getting from these spaza shops? Because it's not going to SARS. It's not coming back to our economy. On top of that, the goods coming from the ports, it's a network from outside of South Africa. It's not a network in South Africa.
And it doesn't benefit us either.
The people keep making this thing look like it's all glossy. You know, like, oh, it's poor migrants coming in because they're poor, they're refugees and asylum seekers, and oh, they need to survive. Why would we have more foreigners going to Home Affairs litigating the department to stay in South Africa and continue getting more rights than migrants actually should? If they don't know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. And let me tell you, you know exactly what they're doing because now they've started going to try and get voted for in communities and starting their own political parties, etc., etc. There was even a video of a member in parliament I think I'll find that video. I'll try and find it for you. Who was saying that we need to make sure that we bring in more Pakistanis from Pakistan to come to South Africa.
I'd rather just have South Africans.
That is exactly my point. You know, people are saying Jacinta is funded by Israel. I'm like, do you guys not hear what I'm saying?
Okay.
I don't care about foreigners coming from Israel, from Pakistan, from...
As long as they have their paperwork.
Even besides getting paperwork, because that's another element I want to go into. I care about South Africans right now.
And I agree with you. I don't think that it's unfair to say I'm for my family first.
Yes.
I'm not unkind if I put a lock on my gate and don't let strangers in.
Not at all.
And it's hard to say, you know, we can all come in and share of our infrastructure when our infrastructure is failing and cannot deliver services to its own people.
Exactly.
And our president has stood up, State of the Nation, and said, all are welcome. We won't send anybody away. Please all come and use our infrastructure. And then South Africans are saying, hey, I can't get
what
services.
Infrastructure are you wanting us to share with people in the first place?
Okay, so then answer me this. It feels like once we have chased all of these immigrants away, say they're gone tomorrow, that it will not have fixed the underlying problem that is government failing.
But you see, that's where I feel a lot of people are wrong.
Okay.
The issue may be about migrants, but it's far bigger than that. It's about fighting a system,
Okay.
which is a government system.
Okay.
And once people are able to stand up to their government and remove that system completely, it ushers in new opportunities for new governance and a new system to take over the country.
Is there a further larger revolution on the horizon then?
The revolution has already started.
And what does
The
it
minute
look like?
South Africans are not sitting on their phones and they are on the streets demanding,
Yes.
trust me, it means this country will never go down.
Okay, so then that scares me a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I see the immigrant being made scapegoat, rightfully so. There's criminal elements, there's jobs being taken. I'm not disputing that, and I agree with you that they need to go. We need law and order. Okay, once they go, our economy is still stalled. Right? There may be some more job openings, but the economy is still stalled. We still don't have the infrastructure. We've still got crime. Who's the next target?
But you see, that's where the problem is.
But who's the next to blame?
There's no target here. The issue is with government. The issue is with the system.
But if we're saying
if
it's
the
with
system
government,
is allowing for migrants to currently clog the system so that South Africa does not grow,
I hear you.
then the problem is not only the migrants, it's the system. So when we fight the current system, we remove the problem, which is the migrants that are not allowing us to fight the government. I said this in one of the interviews. Let me explain to you how. Let's talk about capitalism, for example, which is obviously we're in a mixed economy right now. Now, capitalism is the one system that has led us to come here where we are today, where we have millions of migrants that are unaccounted for because of cheap labor, right? With cheap labor comes how many other problems? Obviously, South Africans not working, the rich becoming richer, poor becoming poorer, poorer people become criminals because they need to survive. When they need to survive, they're going to end up fighting the rich. Obviously, that's a system. That's how it works. It's like a ripple effect.
Yes.
Now, if we're saying to the poor people, you have an opportunity to change the system.
Yes.
You can change your government.
I hear you.
And by changing your government, it means dismantling all of these things at the same time. Because remember, let me give you an example. When we say that there's a lot of crime, migrants, whatever, right? What happens? There's more police visibility. When there's more police visibility, it's not just to fight migrants. When the police are there, they're not going to say, oh, no, I'm just chasing migrants down the streets. I'm going to ignore you while you rob a store. It's not going to work that way. Even those who are committing crimes, there's more police visibility for all crimes throughout, which is something we've never seen happening in the country before.
And I'm for more policing. That's great. But come back to the idea of we've put a target on the immigrant. That's the problem that we have within the system. And we're saying there's this bigger systematic problem that we have to take on. What stops us from then saying, you know what, the next problem is?
We're not putting
white capital.
No.
They need to go next.
There's always been a target on white capital. That's the thing.
So
that's why the EFF
So now
is
we've
here
organized and we're seeing movement, we're seeing our power, and we're rallying behind the revolution. And first we're saying immigrants out. What's to stop the next target? Because we need a target. There always has to be someone to blame.
No, you see, that's where you and I will disagree.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm asking the question.
The target is government. I repeat that again.
But it's pointed at immigrants.
No, the target is government for allowing the issue of illegal immigrants to thrive in the country. The target is government for not enforcing their own laws. The target is government.
But you're not marching on Parliament to take on Parliament.
No, we are.
You're chasing immigrants away.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No. That's not true. All our marches went to either a government building or a police station.
Yes.
Ours ended at the police station, Point Road. You know why? Because Point Road is one of those places with organized crime where all of these Nigerians and all of these people are committing crimes.
Yeah.
There was one that went straight to the union buildings, which was not the first time we went to the union buildings, by the way. And all the other provinces went to a government building.
And so you're going to the building.
Yes, and we're handing over a memorandum to government and demanding answers from government. And these memorandums that we're handing over, by the way, are listing the same laws that we have in the country that the government is meant to be enforcing. It's not sitting there and saying, we're going to tell you there's 2 million migrants, remove them. What? No, we're saying there are laws that you wrote down. Yes. And you said, in order for me to hire a foreigner, for example, I need to follow this process. Currently, you're the same government that's not following that process.
So the immigrant gets kicked out. The immigrant's being removed.
Listen, I don't want you to. You see, this is why I want to keep shifting the goalposts to government, because we're talking about the law here. We're not talking about the immigrants.
How does the government get kept to account?
That's what we're doing right now. I've been to Parliament personally to make them account for them not enforcing their own laws. We've met with different ministers, education, the police minister, etc., because what we are referring to, I'm going to say again, is not the immigrant. It is the laws of the country that don't allow the immigrant to be here. Now the clash comes when the immigrants themselves, this is where I want people to be honest with themselves about the immigrants in this country. Immigrants in this country have been protected for a long time. That they've gotten entitled, they've gotten arrogant, and they've gotten very brave, right?
Sure. I saw some Malawians on the camera saying, you guys can come and
you are lazy, you are this and that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
So you can't expect that to not play a factor in people being angry. Because like I say, we are fighting our government. Our marches are to our government. We're not going to the drive-in where the Malawians are and saying remove. If we wanted to do that, trust me, we would have done that.
We are seeing some people being grabbed and chased away and papers checked.
Well, let me tell you, I don't want to account for things that other people are doing. That's not on us, because we've never even preached that. I'm going to account for what we say and what we do. So, like I said, communities are angry. Remember, I said this from the beginning, from the onset, and that is because of government's failures. But I still maintain we must never take away from the role that the immigrants themselves have played. Because if you're in a foreign country and you start telling the natives of that country you're not going anywhere, Mandela said, this is our country, we are going to... You can't pretend like those people are innocent. And that's the problem I have with South Africa. A lot of people are acting like migrants are just these, all of them. And you know, one thing you must have noted, I don't know if you noted this, and it worries me that our government didn't find a problem with that. So many of them are being interviewed. Oh, life is not the same in South Africa. There are no jobs, blah, blah, blah. There are no jobs. Or almost all of them are complaining that there are no jobs in South Africa. So what exactly were they doing in the country? How were they surviving? Why are people not asking themselves those questions? Why are they not asking them that question?
The flip side is that you have South Africans complaining that all the jobs are going to immigrants.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, South Africans don't have jobs, right? Statistically, that's been
massive unemployment.
Blah, blah, blah. That's okay. But I'm saying we've got people coming from Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, all of this, coming to our TVs. I mean, I'm seeing this even on Sigzoktola that I was talking about when they ask Nigerians, why are you selling drugs? Because there are no opportunities. So what are you doing in the country?
I think
how are you surviving?
Opportunities. There definitely are loads of immigrants that do
but listen to what I'm saying. They're saying they don't have opportunities. There are no jobs.
No,
so what are they doing in the country? How are they surviving?
No,
what means do they have to survive?
And
no, some of them are not surviving because of working.
They're surviving? They're just committing
crime.
Sure, I don't think that you can say it's the vast majority.
I'm not saying all of them. That's not what I'm saying.
I would say it's not the majority.
I'm not saying it's the majority, but I'm saying when you're on TV and you're saying yourself that there are no opportunities in South Africa. There's no means to survive. Why is nobody asking, so how were you surviving in South Africa? Nobody's been asking that question. That's my question.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Tell me, what do you say to the South African or to the immigrant when the South African says, you're taking my job? Why do you think the immigrant gets the job?
Look, I think there's a lot of reasons. I'll start on the lower scale of things, which is something that we know factually.
Okay.
There's a minimum wage in the country. We know that. There's a lot of unions that have caused problems for people, especially employers who get tired of explaining themselves to unions, because South African employers have protection when they're under unions, and unions.
Employees have protection.
Employees, yes. And then.
So our labor law is restrictive.
Yeah, so our labor laws make it very hard to treat employees in a certain way.
Yeah.
So employers will obviously naturally take advantage of an opportunity where they can avoid dealing with labor unions and dealing with the minimum wage and paying as little as they can. I mean,
how often do you think that really happens? I've heard that is like
a lot.
The main
There's an entire TV show on it as well, on TV,
so when
where they find hundreds and hundreds of people working in factories, but those are lower level, like I said, lower level entry jobs. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Because any company that's registered with SARS has to account for their salaries to be expensed, needs to be able to show paperwork.
But they do hire some South Africans, remember. So they do that, and then they manipulate the paperwork.
I think it's a tough argument to say that everybody's skirting that kind of law. SARS is one of the few institutions that does work in this country.
Our conversation in general needs to be cognizant of the fact that we're not talking about everyone.
Sure.
Even when I talk about committing crime, I'm not talking about every migrant committing crimes. I'm just talking about things that we have seen as perpetuating the problem and causing more problems.
For sure.
Of course, I know a lot of people will ask for statistics. There are no statistics because nobody's been doing research on the issue. So I don't understand these people that want statistics. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, you don't go out and find statistics. Where do you think you're going to get statistics of how many people are working in factories, whatever? But like I said, there's an entire TV show where every week there's about 300, 400 people being removed from a single factory.
I look at the private homes.
Yeah.
And I look at the gardeners and the home cleaners, very often seem to be Zimbabweans, Malawians. And when I ask them, are you being paid less? Very seldom they're being paid less. They're saying we show up when we need to show up, and we have the right attitude. The South Africans are entitled.
That's not true.
I'll tell you why I think it is. Give me a second. I think that if you travel thousands of kilometers to come and find work,
that's the only thing
you're coming to work.
You see, that's what I say.
If you don't have a SASSA grant to rest on.
That's what I say as well.
And I think that there may still be an underlying animosity and hate, especially towards white people, as being the problem that causes the South African to say, friction, I definitely don't want to work with you. That the Malawian doesn't have.
Yeah. You see, I've termed this way. It's so unfortunate. I don't think South Africa really healed from apartheid. We pretend as if we've gone through it, but we really haven't, because sometimes as Black people, we have preconceived ideas of what a white person is saying to me. Sometimes it's not what they're saying, but sometimes it is what they're saying. You know what I mean? And some white people have never really honestly moved from their thoughts and their convictions that they had back then. So that's where the problem is. I always say the immigrants have replaced South Africans as the modern day slaves. Whether they want to agree with that or not is the reality. Because from what you're saying, with the issue of
I would push back on that idea.
No, you can. You can. Everyone does.
I don't think immigrants are, for the most part. There will be businesses who do pay less and take advantage of being able to skirt labor law.